18 to 20, we know it as the Great Commission. But what I've noticed the Lord doing with me lately and with that is what I call the two bookends of the Great Commission. One being the front bookend being all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. And the back bookend being I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I tend to just, I scan over that, focus on verse 19 and 20 mostly. And so I thought, there's got to be more there than I'm really taking it harder than that. But let me give you an assignment first. Just write down just somewhere on your iPhone or something, write down at least one thought that comes to your mind from each of those bookends. All authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. What one thought comes to your mind? And I am with you always, even to the end of the age. What one thought comes to your mind at that one?
On verse 18, that there's just no doubt that Jesus is God.
I don't know if I got all that, Matt, Eric.
I just said it left no doubt that Jesus is God.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, here's the next step to do with what you wrote down. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 meaning minor or minimum, and 5 being major or maximum, what at this time in your life, what level of impact do those two statements have to you? We'll come back to that later now, but let me ask you a question. When Jesus was on earth, what role did he play on behalf of the Godhead? When Jesus was on earth, what role did he play on behalf of the Godhead? I'll give you a big clue. Read Hebrews 1:3.
He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power.
So Jesus was the visible manifestation of God, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In fact, he was the only authorized manifestation of God because he was a unique God-man, demonstrating God in fleshly form. Now, with that in mind, let's look at the bookends. The first one, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. That means it's unlimited authority. What title is most often given to a person with unlimited authority? Well, what's the title you think of that's often used for someone? Unlimited authority.
One title would be king.
Yeah, king, right. Dictator, potentate, monarch, emperor. But probably the most common is king, and more than likely that's in mind here. He's basically declaring that he's the king over the entire kingdom, which includes all of heaven and all of earth. And that's a combination. Philippians 2, God exalted him in the highest place, gave him the name above all names, that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth. Every tongue should confess Jesus is Lord to the glory of God and the Father. For 1 Timothy 6:15, he's blessed and only sovereign, King of kings, Lord of lords. So the first bookend, Jesus is claiming his complete authority. That tells us he's about to authorize something or to someone. In verse 19, who is he authorizing?
Us?
Yeah, indirectly, you and me. He's addressing a crowd of over 500, according to 1 Corinthians 15. So there's a huge crowd there, but indirectly, he's addressing you and me. And what is he authorizing us to do?
To represent the kingdom on his behalf.
Oh, he's
Make disciples.
He's authorizing us to make disciples, but why is he authorizing us to make disciples? Because he's returning to the Father, and he needs to establish someone who will represent the kingdom in his absence. So that's how significant it is. It's replacing his physical presence on earth by his physical presence being manifest through our physical presence. That's why it's called the Great Commission, because that's how big a deal it is. Because he's also got to establish a way for that representation to be multiplied in such a fashion that it passes from generation to generation to all the nations of the world. That's huge. And there's no plan B, there's no contingency plan. He's counting on it happening through his followers, making disciples to put representatives of the kingdom on earth. Meaning we've been commissioned to represent Jesus on earth and to perpetuate the number of representatives of Jesus to all the kingdoms. Therefore, we go to make disciples. Then we come to the other bookend of verse 20. Lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. That's saying far more than, hey, I'm going to be hanging out with you, or call me if you need me. In fact, there's several occasions in Scripture where God is saying either I am with you or I will be with you. But if you look at those closely, he doesn't just randomly toss them out. It's usually in a very intentional way that he uses them. It's stated when somebody is about to commit to a very important task or a very dangerous task. That's when he says, I am with you, or I will be with you. And usually it's included in the making of a covenant. In fact, most often it's the making of a covenant. And a covenant is basically a level of saying that a level of commitment is I am with you completely in the process. I was looking to refresh my mind at the historical records indicating what the process of a covenant making went through. One step was they would exchange outer garments. And by doing that, they're symbolizing I will provide for you. Another one is after doing that, they would exchange their weapon belts, which their spear or their bow hung from. And by exchanging the weapon belts, they're symbolizing, I will protect you. So I will provide for you, I'll protect for you. And then often they would cut an animal in half, and obviously leaving a pool of blood between the two parts. Then the two parties would march between those two parts of the slain animal. Basically, in a sense, what they're conveying is, may what happened to this animal happen to me if I should be unfaithful to this commitment. That's where it became a blood commitment, as we know. In 1 Corinthians 11, we're talking about communion, and this cup is the blood of my covenant with you. That's the same idea of the blood being involved in the covenant. Now, all that is wrapped up in those simple words, I am with you. That's a covenant statement that says, I am here to provide for you. I'm here to protect you. And that's how big that statement is. There's another interesting statement in there when it says, I am with you. He's speaking to at least 500 people. So you presume the word you would be in the plural. As I looked at it, I found out it's in the singular. Jesus was speaking just to us right here, right now. This is what Jesus said, I'm with you, Josh. I'm with you, Eric. I'm with you, Mickey. I'm with you, Greg. I'm with you, Larry. I'm with you. That's how he brings it down individually. I am with you. Meaning I will provide for you. I will protect you in the process. So in the first bookend, we have a kingdom perspective. The king is authorizing us and commanding us to manifest his presence for the kingdom. The second bookend, we have a covenant perspective. The Lord is declaring that he'll provide and protect. They both work simultaneously to support the Great Commission in a very significant way. And in fact, as I got to thinking about that statement, I am with you, this is an undeveloped idea. It may not be accurate, but the thought ran across my mind. I'm wondering, is this statement Jesus' most abbreviated form of describing what it means to be a disciple maker? I am with you. Interesting thought, isn't it? Here comes the heavy part. If I, by inactivity, say no to making disciples, I am disobeying the king. Disobeying the king is defiance. Anything less than obedience is defiance, and defiance is rebellion. I am rebelling against the king when I choose to not make disciples. If I'm not making disciples because I say I can't, I'm not able to, we're denying the promise of Jesus to both be providing and protecting. Basically, I'm saying to Jesus, either I don't believe you or I don't trust you, one or the other. Either statement is unreasonable, totally out of the calling. That's how significant that part is to well. Now, with that in mind, just those two thoughts about in the statement, all authority has been given in heaven and earth, we see he's bringing out the whole kingdom mindset, the whole kingdom cause that is calling us to take his place as a physical representation of his presence. And we see the covenant statement that I am with you is him saying, I'll be with you, providing and protecting. Now look at the statement you wrote down about at the beginning, but how initial thought that came to your mind when you observed those two bookends. Look at it again and ask how you would change your statement in those that you made earlier. How would you edit your statement that you made it at the beginning? How would you edit it now based on what we've just talked about? And how will your edit statement affect your perspective on commitment to making disciples? I then ask myself this question: does it matter enough to you that you are willing to be held accountable for making disciples? So I wrote down an acrostic of the word die, D-I-E. It means I got to die to self. Diligence, inspection, not just accountability. I like for my life to be inspected to see is there definitely disciples being made, and expectation. I really expect Jesus to provide and protect in the process. That's the thoughts God's taken me through in those passages, so I pass it on to you. And I know you will do with it as God leads you to do.